Hello, and welcome to the Self Consciousness Podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Way, and you are listening to the fourth episode in our New Earthing series, where we explore new ways of living and alternatives to the status quo. So, what does a new Earth look like? We ask these questions here at the Self Consciousness Podcast. For some, it might mean living closer to the land. For others, it might mean choosing community, living more sustainably, or letting go of systems that just no longer serve us. Sometimes it means crossing borders, literally. In today's episode, I am joined by Larisa Gerace, a healer, guide, and ceremonialist who I've known for a while, who is on the show today sharing her story of moving from the US to Mexico nearly 8 years ago. We talk about what it really takes to follow an intuitive pull to another country. We also we talk plenty about this, how cultural differences can really help create new expansion in your soul and your experience, and also what it feels like when your energy actually feels at home in a place. If you're not feeling at home where you are, you could relate to this conversation. This conversation really is about, overall, it's about trust. It's about alignment, and it's about living in deeper harmony with the life that you're meant to lead. So stay with me. You're going to love this one. Welcome, Larisa Gerace, to the Self Consciousness Podcast. Finally have you on. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me on here. I've known you for a couple of years now, probably more than a couple. But you're a healer, you're a shamanic practitioner. Would you call yourself that?
Sure,
light
sure.
light worker, what have you. Really an amazing, you're a specialist in what you do, and you do some wonderful energy healing. I've worked with you many times before, and then just as your friend, I get the benefit of that as well. So I've got you on the show because I want to talk a little bit about what it's like leaving America. You live in Mexico now. And if you can talk a little bit about kind of where you're from originally and what went into moving to Mexico.
Sure. Um, so I was originally born in Mississippi, so I've come a long way from home. But most of my adult life, I lived in Colorado and loved Colorado, loved everything about it, considered myself a Colorado girl. Um, had not done much travel outside of the United States as a young woman or a young kid, even. And so it wasn't until I was 28 that my then boyfriend, now husband, took me on a vacation to Mexico. And we got off the plane and I took a smell in of the air, and it was humid, and but there was this quality to the air that I spent the next 20 years trying to figure out how to live there. And it was just that it was just this little dream of, I want to live somewhere that's not where I'm from. And I didn't understand why at all. I just was following that. I want to be somewhere else, I want to live somewhere else. And so it became like this dream of my husband and mine's to retire here. And when he came of retirement age, we started. It was like this two things happened. He retired, and at the same time I started watching this quirky show called Mexico Life, and it's basically showing how expats come and they can buy property and live their Mexican dream life. And there was always this fear we'd had about purchasing down here, buying. What can you buy here? Can you own land in Mexico, et cetera, et cetera. And that was like, I was like, look, people are doing it, let's go. And so my husband and I, both being very times impulsively in the wildest, dreamiest ways, came down here Found a realtor just to look, but in 3 days we bought a place. So,
Wow.
and then 6 months later we moved here. And that was in 2017. So it was before the first Trump administration, before he was first elected as president of the United States. So we left right before the elections. So it just,
Wow.
I always like to say that it had nothing to necessarily do with that. Because a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, well, you got out right on time back then. And I was like, no, we just left. It didn't have anything to do with that. There was no rebel
Yeah.
against our government or administration. So
It was
yeah,
just
so I can honestly say in hindsight, no idea what I was getting into. None, none.
well, looking, I mean, at the place that you're at now, so we're what, 8 year, I can't do math. eight
Yeah, eight
years.
years. Yeah.
How do you find that journey? Um, what would you tell yourself in 2017?
Yeah, good question. Um, that you're going to be stretched in ways you weren't expecting, and you're going to get gifts from places you weren't expecting. And I think that's been the ride, is just the unexpectedness of life came very alive here. There was a lot of predictability about being born and raised in a country. You know what to expect. And here I had no idea. So there was a
Mhm.
lot of newness.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But at that same time, like the when I first moved here, it was interesting because I didn't want, my biggest fear was not having access to all the things I needed. And I had a big list of needs that, from hair care to um, specific soaps to wash your hands. Like, I worked at a natural food store for a long time. So I was very much indoctrinated into that very privileged lifestyle of having high quality food, organic everything, everything clean, everything, you know, from Mother Nature. And I got here and there's none of that. And so, like, my whole identity was just like washed to the side in just 1 month. It was like there is nothing here you identify with. And that began the journey that I actually am living, of who am I really? And what does it mean to live somewhere? And what does it mean to be a part of something that you're not? And like, how do you integrate? Um, and how do you live? And I think that's been the biggest shift is, I mean, I'll just give you a quick example. Like at the grocery store, when I was first shopping, it's just a regular grocery store. There's no organic section, there's no gluten-free section. I mean, and so I'm just like fish out of water. And I'm like, there was this very judgmental part of me that had been, this isn't real food, this is processed, blah, blah, blah. But I started to look at all the beautiful Mexican people shopping there alongside of me, and man, did they look healthy. And didn't they looked happy, and they didn't look concerned, and they're not looking poisoned, and they're not, like there was not this, like, just all of the rhetoric that I had been believing. And not to say that that stuff's not true about our food system and all of that. That's a whole nother conversation about
Sure.
food, right? But for the most part, the people here eat what is offered in the grocery store, and they thrive. So that was like the first thing, was like, there's no organic here. So now you just have to buy a vegetable. And the other thing I noticed immediately was the quality of the food was better as far as vegetables go.
Mhm.
Makes sense. Most of the farms that we get a lot of our food from is Mexico.
Yeah.
So like, I remember buying like a zucchini or something that if I would buy it in my organic grocery store in Denver, it would taste okay, but it wouldn't taste like my garden. If I had my garden zucchini next to a bought zucchini, I could tell the difference. Down here, when I buy a tomato or something like that, it tastes like it's out of the garden. So I
Mm.
immediately started to recognize just the layers that we have in the United States
Yeah.
for access to just the simplicity of life, good food, water, shelter.
Yeah.
Um, we're fed a big lie in our culture about what we need to survive. And I really started to play a game with myself about what does it mean to live um, without access to Amazon, without access to mail, without, I had quite an Amazon habit, like most of us do, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I can find that on Amazon. For the first place we lived, I couldn't get deliveries. And so this habit that I had maybe a once or twice a month, I just need that hat and I just need that product was gone. And my little supply that I had brought down here slowly was dwindling away of my favorite soap and my favorite this and I was like at the grocery store replacing with regular soap and like
Yeah.
it sounds small, but it just I think the biggest thing I've healed from is consumerism is where I'm kind of going with this is like
Wow.
I didn't understand how indoctrinated I was and how privileged. So it was like these two layers that just kind of got stripped aside.
Yeah.
Your privilege doesn't matter here. You're screaming, your money. I mean, money works a little bit, but that's a more of a bribery kind of energy, like, but nobody cares. You're going to stand in line just like the next guy is. And there was something I have to say, Jennifer, that was so sweet for me about that. That it just we all became people in line, you know, not like I have this and I had an appointment and it's like, no, you're in line. You're in line with everybody. And so I find that sweet when I find myself in lines, when I see myself waiting next to an abuela that's, 70, standing in the same line.
Yeah.
It really normalized a lot of stuff that being a girl of the 70s and 80s, just I was raised differently, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
What are the biggest what are the biggest cultural differences in the beginning that you felt were the most challenging besides the things that you already said? Just something like inherently in the culture.
I mean, the culture of the Mexican people is very familial. They center around family and work,
Mm.
and we center around work. We center around achievement, and they're more means to an end with their work. Um, but at the end of the day, it's always family. Sunday, you're going to see all the family, not just the main mother, father, and kids. You're going to see the abuela, the abuelo, the tios, the cousins, like all of that is going to be, present at the beach. And that's what they live for. Um, and then there's another piece that's a little different than us. Like we come together on big holidays and do the 4th of July or Memorial Day, and we'll have our barbecues and things, but it's different here. That never is lost. As a community, they always come together, it seems,
Yeah.
and help each other, celebrate with each other, go through sorrows with each other.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah. I'm not saying there's not like also a very strong indifference that can happen down here, like with the cartel and violence energy that is part of this culture too now, unfortunately. You do have this life doesn't seem to mean as much, and yet that makes it all the more precious,
Mm.
if that makes any sense.
That
So
does
there's
make
a
sense.
lot about the way they embrace death, the way they embrace suffering, so much different than us. We suffer and then we suffer over our suffering. Like we're keen at that. We're
Great
just
way of
keen.
putting it. Yeah.
You know?
To say the least.
And
Yeah.
they're able to sit more in that there is suffering, it seems, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you miss the most from living in the States?
I mean, the same thing I'm saying I kind of rid myself from is I mean, I sure do miss a gluten-free selection, you know?
Yeah. I
As somebody
understand
who
that.
hasn't had gluten in over 20 years, and I started not eating gluten in my 30s, and back then there was literally like some really crappy rice bread and maybe a really horrible pancake mix, but that was it. And now you can get anything you want. And then I
Yeah.
moved down here and it was all that re-education of the staff at the restaurant and, you know, not having little GFs next to everything that you can eat and having to ask more questions. And So when I get home, I always go for gluten-free pizza, gluten-free waffles, like things that I
Mm,
cannot go into a restaurant here and order.
yeah,
It sounds so small. Other than that, I can't say I miss much. The
that's
longer I'm here, the less, I mean, I miss the land of the United States. I miss Colorado. I miss the rivers. I miss the snow. Um,
mm,
I miss a good road trip and through our states. But I our culture, I don't miss. The
yeah,
pressure of our culture, I don't miss.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
You're saying like all the things I was hoping you wouldn't say because it's so appealing now. It's like way more appealing. I was like, maybe if I ask her all the most challenging things, I won't want to move away as much. But yeah, good job, Larissa. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding. Well, okay, so you're a really I'm gonna just say, like for me, you're a very advanced spiritual practitioner. You're an amazing do you call yourself a shaman or you do call yourself a shamanic
I do not
practitioner?
call myself a shaman. I don't feel like that's my title. But do I have the skills of a shamanic person? Do I think animistically? Yes.
Okay.
I approach life in an animist point of view, and that informs my work.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
yeah.
So in the last 8 years and in all the sort of journeys and work that you've done, not just with clients, but also with yourself, were you able to kind of pinpoint what it is that originally drew you there? You said you like followed your intuition. So was there a point where you were like, ah, okay, that makes sense. That's why I'm here.
There wasn't a point, but I think what's emerging is that the one thing I always said about Mexico is that I loved the Mexican people. Specifically, I loved their hearts.
Mm,
I loved how they loved externally different than we do. Um, I loved the pride of their heart. And what I've come to see is that that's me too,
mm,
that I have that quality of heart and was often that part it wasn't very much honored in the United States. But I swear I can be honored for that in the grocery store here with my open heart, my smile, my eye contact, the things that I was enjoying about them, I do back naturally. And
yeah.
there's an immediate connection with people. Like even the bagging people
Yeah.
treat me with like a friendliness. And I think that's just my mirror of my friendliness and theirs. And so I think it's my heart is what keeps me here
Yeah.
and what wanted me here.
Mm,
Um, to have a free, safe, beautiful place to be in my heart. And that's what keeps expanding as the years go on here is my capacity. Now, and I've been doing my own personal work around my heart and
sure.
doing all of that. But there's something that's just naturally like the lands here invite me to just be in my heart and to soften. And that's where all my potency and power is coming from now, not from that mentally, um, just, technical,
Yeah.
the way that a lot of times, we teach practitioners to be practitioners in the United States. It's like there's a flow here that every healer seems to have, these indigenous healers
Mhm.
that I'm dancing with, like
Yeah.
playing with. So, yeah.
When you return, because you do come back, from
Couple
time to
times a
time
year.
periodically,
Yeah.
um, energetically, what differences do you notice?
That's been the interesting part. Like every time I come back, so I come back about every 6 months or so, and I get off the plane and I can feel the vibe of the United States because I'm not in it. I drop into it. And I've seen, I can, there's been many different things. When COVID happened, the stress that was the way that Mexico as a country handled COVID was so much different than the United States, mostly because the people here really trust their government, if you will. And when
Mm-hmm.
the government said, put your masks on, they all put masks on. And that was it. Then they went on about their day. Nobody questioned if it was healthy, this or that, none of that.
Yeah.
If vaccines were offered, people went and got them. There was not any of this, pickets and things. So I came back to the United States somewhere in COVID, like when it was safe to travel and stuff, or getting safer. We were still masking,
Hmm.
and the stress I could feel on people was palatable. Just in the 7-Elevens, in the grocery, just people furrowed browed, not present, going through motions. And I've seen that increase in the last 5 years. Um, Especially like the area where I used to live, my mom still lives in that area.
Hmm.
We had, we were right off of a street that's famous in Denver for a lot of things, but crime is one of them that happens along this street. And we were a few blocks off of it, so we never had any issues in our neighborhood, but
Hmm.
but there was always like little burglaries or whatever. But now when I drive in that same area, it's just full of people addicted and downtrodden. And we're normalizing that in the United States. We normalize each other's intense stress, intense trauma, intense all of it. And we just normalize it. And we're like, what's wrong with you? Oh, did you notice Jennifer's being a little weird lately? It's like, you know, Jennifer's just trying to keep her feet on the ground, right? Like that's like, like
Yeah.
I think that's so there's this big judgment thing that goes on too that's just constant, it feels like in the United States. Um, to feel, to break down, to need help, to not
Wow.
be okay in a day or a week, to, grief is non-existent, and that is getting to us because there's just layers of pain coming from, I think, 9/11. That's kind of like my adult life was, I was 20, 30 years old when 9/11 happened. So I've watched 25 years of that trauma go unprocessed and all the results of that action to our land and what happened just go unhealed, and it's
Wow.
just getting worse, you know.
Wow. It's
So,
all stuff that it's like it's so sad to me because it's like yeah, all the points you're making, I've felt that and I see that, but I can't really see that because I'm in it. It's very
hmm
thick. It's very
hmm
dense.
yes.
Um,
Yeah, you feel it when you leave it and come back in for extended period. You'll
yeah.
like the kids are not okay.
Yeah. We are not okay. The kids of America are not okay.
Which I think
Yeah.
that's the other thing about, I mentioned it briefly, but like the Mexican people are in relationship with death. They're in relationship with ancestors.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of indigenous, communities here moving the ancestral lineage forward. Whereas,
Yeah.
the white lineage is broken because we refuse to grieve that original thing that we broke from. And it's
Yeah.
just, look at all of the terrible things we've done as the white people here. So, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's been no, yeah, there's been no responsibility. There's been no processing. You're right.
And like the things that really cause stress in the United States, like that's what I've just found so cool about Mexico is like, for instance, healthcare.
Yeah.
Nothing causes more stress than having something wrong with you because it's not so much that something's wrong with you, it's that
Yeah.
you got to go to your first appointment, pay a certain amount of money, get seen for 5 minutes, only to be told it's you or you're the problem,
Yeah.
or you need more tests, but we don't do that here, and that's another appointment and another appointment. So you're trying to get something figured out, and it's like it's costly. You're not getting answers. You're
Yep.
not getting really listened to because the person has 10 minutes with you, maybe.
Yeah.
And
You're literally
you know,
describing my last like 2 weeks, pretty
yeah.
much. Yeah.
And God forbid you have kids, because then it's compounded with that, right? Like you've got more and more
Yeah.
of that same thing. Well, if I get sick here, I can go to a doctor and get seen and pay a very low amount to just go get seen. I do have health insurance, but the health care is so cheap that a lot of times I'll just pay the $20 to see a doctor.
Yeah.
That same doctor will give me his WhatsApp number. I have my cardiologist and my surgeon gave me his WhatsApp number. So
Oh
I
my
could reach
God.
them at any time and ask a
Yeah.
question. They
Wow.
never, you need to call my office. You need an appointment. Oh, well, you can't talk about this in your appointment and that. That's two different things, right?
Oh my
none of that. So
God.
that right there reduces my stress so deeply. And so like I had a big surgery last year and everybody was like, "You're going to do it in Mexico?" Which of course got me really scared too, and then it's like until I started meeting my neurosurgeon, meeting the people that were going to do this with me, and I was like, I'm in great hands here.
Yeah.
But I was trying to help people understand that if I were to do the same surgery in the United States, I would be there for 4 or 5 months navigating that pre-op and post-ops experience. Whereas, I met my surgeon and 1 month later I had surgery. And I did have to do the tests and things, but again, could just call, go get the test, take everything was just simplified. I don't know why we don't do that in the United States except for money,
Yeah.
except for the insurance game.
Yeah.
But you and I and anyone else should be like, that's what I like is that there's places here in Mexico, they're like little health testing centers, just like when we do like health fairs in the United States where
Mm-hmm.
you go get low cost blood work. And that's 24/7 here. I had my x-ray, my MRI, blood work, chest x-ray, all of this work done for under $200.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I just,
The MRI alone is
I actually
thousands.
want to throw up right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and so I'm dealing with my
Yeah.
mother at home who's old and dealing with a bunch of health stuff and just like trying to get some help for her is ridiculous. Got one doctor prescribing a bunch of stuff, another doctor prescribing another. She's displaying a bunch of other stuff. Nobody wants to talk about that. It's just this, you
Oh
know,
my God.
yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's I mean anyone with older parent like, with parents who are older, who are experiencing health issues, anyone who's listening, like we all know what that is. It's just
And I'm not
it's
saying there's not,
navigating. It's like you
yeah,
shouldn't
it's
have to
navigate.
navigate actively,
Yes.
you should just be
No,
cared for. You should just
just be
experience the
cared for.
care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What were you gonna
exactly.
say?
I don't remember.
Okay. Sorry. Oh, um, of course. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask. So since we had Trump, we got Trump back, just in case you guys didn't know. And you guys got Claudia Sheinbaum, who is the first female president of Mexico. And having lived there prior to her, I mean, not to get like super political, but I mean, I follow her on TikTok and Instagram, and I'm like, look at all these beautiful festivals that are like female centered and how, and I know that's not just because she's a woman, but I technically I know that Mexico is more of a matriarchal society than ours. So have you noticed any sort of palpable differences living in Mexico with the previous president and now with this new female leadership?
I have to say no because be honest, I wasn't paying so much attention when I first
Okay,
moved here. My
great.
head was full with when she got elected though, it was really exciting for me that I was like, wow, I didn't realize Mexico was more matriarchal than I realized.
Hmm.
Um, I just considered with all the machismo and the Latin boy energy, I just thought these guys, it's the same as in the United States. And it was actually just had this conversation with my Spanish teacher that just the way the matriarch holds everything together here. And I don't know much about Claudia's past. I mean, I know she has quite a resume behind her.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where she is on corruption. I mean, part of me kind of believes anybody that makes it to that level is corrupted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, I want to like her. I really want to like her.
Yeah.
But I do like what she's bringing in as far as that roundedness and more of that, like, well, what else did she offer? Like women that raise children are going to get a stipend of some kind, and for their work in the world
Yeah.
and
Oh,
their unpaid work, you know,
that's an
that kind of
improvement.
stuff. But I
Yeah.
mean, the problems in Mexico are very real too. I don't want to sugarcoat that it's like some kind of la la land here. There's big, serious problems, just like in the United States, that
Yeah.
struggled to overcome. And I'm excited to see what she will do, you know,
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. That's true. And just as a reminder, it's like there's no perfect country. There's no
Mhm.
perfect society, and it just has to really align with your personal values. Um, and I feel like living in America, have taken so much for granted, and now that it's sort of slipping through our fingers, it's like, oh, what systems have we built? Because they're all breaking down, and things are becoming it's becoming more transparent, which I think is a good thing. So
Hmm.
it's just all very interesting to me. So if you're comfortable sharing, where are you in Mexico?
I'm in Acamal, Mexico. So
Okay.
I am 25 minutes from Playa del Carmen or Tulum, either
Okay.
direction. So I'm in a tourist zone.
Okay.
This area was developed for tourism. So, in my opinion, this is I mean, there are Maya people here in the Pueblos,
Yeah.
but this is not a good representation of Mexico, I think. Once I've gone to other states now and I see what's really there,
Yeah.
um, you get a different flavor. But like I said, the people are still Mexican,
Yeah.
coming from either other places or they're Mayan here.
Mhm.
And so there is some of that authenticity.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of here that's fabricated and caters to tourism, you know.
Yeah. Seems, yeah.
But I live in the jungle. I live amongst Mexican people and some white people and other countries here as well. And so I have a nice mix here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I mean, just in the last 8 years, have you noticed a larger influx of expats kind of moving in?
Seems to be about the same amount.
Mm.
It's actually slowed down. Everything's slowing down right now
Oh,
because
wow.
everybody's kind of afraid, to buy or to do things. So
Got it.
last 2 years, real estate has kind of dropped a little bit down here. It's also really saturated in this area.
Okay.
So yeah, um, I haven't noticed it so much here, but I have had since I've left three other friends leave the country,
Oh.
and either go to Spain or Portugal
Oh,
or
wow.
here. So people
Interesting.
are moving.
Yeah. And today, well, the day that we're recording this, Spain and Portugal just had a huge blackout. The entire country was blacked out. Yeah,
I
like
just
no
heard it.
Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi, you guys, but like no Wi-Fi and like just like everything, all the planes grounded, no traffic lights, no nothing, no communication. Um, yeah, so of course, I had another question and it just totally escaped my mind. Oh, what was the naturalization process? What was that sort of like? What's your sort of citizenry or your status?
I am a resident of Mexico. I have residency, so I have a green card here.
Okay.
Um, we started that process in the United States at the Mexican consulate in Denver. It's an appointment with all of your financial paperwork, and there are certain, if you're coming here as a retiree, there is a dollar amount they want to see in your account for a 9 month to a year period, I think.
Okay.
And that's basically what it's about. It's like, do you have enough money to come here and not take from the Mexican people? Um, so you can't come here and go try to find a job waiting tables unless you have a
Mhm.
work visa. And nobody's going to give you a work visa when there's 15 Mexicans that will do that job, right?
Sure.
So I think that's the tricky part if you're still trying to work. Unless you work remotely, and or can travel with your stuff,
Yeah.
that's coming here without a job prospect is not smart. You
Hmm.
can ask all the starving hippies in Tulum who are trying to sell yoga and their Reiki practices, you know, and
Interesting.
it's
Yeah.
just saturated that way. But then after, so it's a process and it's financial and it's time. It's your time that you are offering for that card back,
Yeah.
waiting in line, photographs, lawyers. But, you know, my process was a little different than Tom's. He got residency when he first came, and I got a temporary residency as his wife,
Okay.
like almost like he sponsored me, if you will.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
3 or 4 years later, I went ahead and applied for residency and was granted. So
Oh, all right.
otherwise, we would have both had to show financial standing, which
Got
would
it.
just mean the same paperwork Tom did, but all the same, all again for me. And so we just decided not to do that. I went with a temporary residency, and then in 3 or 4 years, I don't have to show any financial anything. I just have to say I'm the spouse of, we've been
Yeah.
here for this amount of time,
Yeah.
and they issued the card.
Do
So,
you maintain your citizenship in America?
oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
You
So
don't
you're
lose that.
dual. You would say you're
Not dual.
okay.
That's a different level to get
Okay.
it dual citizenship, like two passports.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I was looking into it just for the challenge of it, but then I heard if you get in trouble in Mexico, for instance, let's say I got arrested for something crazy,
Yeah.
and I called the US consulate and they saw that I also had Mexican citizenship, they would say, that's your country, you handle it with them.
Oh,
And so I was like,
interesting.
oh, that's interesting. Like, who would I mean, I don't know now. Maybe I would just want the Mexican government to intervene. But I know that, the United States is good with, how they support their citizens throughout the world when something's going on. There you can
Yeah.
call your embassy and, you know,
Oh, interesting.
reach for help, reach for connection.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the indigenous people that you've met or worked with around
Sure.
where you are?
Um, it took a while to meet people here in that realm because I'm shy. I never
Yeah.
realized how shy I was till I moved here. Um, which is funny because I'm Sagittarius and complete, out in the world, but yet I get very shy. There's a lot of commercialization of the Maya people here because
Yeah.
this is, so all your little ceremonies at the hotel, there's going to be a Mayan guy dressed up like a Maya,
Yeah.
doing the Maya thing, and
Yeah.
they're there for the money, they're there to make money.
Yeah.
I just happened to meet a really nice massage therapist who I worked with. He was working with me for a long time. And I told him I was what I was up to, but he didn't speak English. I didn't speak Spanish. Our
Mhm.
friendship grew very slowly through a lot of other energy of just us working together, him working on my body. One day he said, I want to do healing work with you, but I need to invite you to meet my friends. So he invited me it was really beautiful because I was in a Spanish class just the day before reading some silly thing about how Mexicans like to gather and have coffee or tea and sweets. Like they really like to have their sweets and breads and things.
Yeah.
And so Jorge invited me to meet his friends. I show up at a cacao shop. They all order cacao. I don't order anything. I just have my water. I don't, like I'm just like, ugh. Um, and they like, do you want some breads? Do you want some bread? I'm like, no, no, I don't eat bread. That's okay. But it was like all of a sudden I'm sitting there and they're doing what they always do, having their coffee and talking and eating these breads. And Jorge spent a good 15 minutes talking to them about who I was. And I have no idea what he said to them, just that he was obviously seeing me. And those are my friends now. And my dear friend that was there, her name is Tanya. She's a abuela, and she is a moon dancer.
Oh, wow.
And so she's on an initiated path. Her lineage is Maya. And from her, I've met many, many beautiful people that
Yeah.
are practicing their indigenous ways.
It's,
Um,
that's
yeah.
so great. It feels like you're finding more of the authentic. Oh, that sounds like obnoxious. Like that sounds so authentic, Larissa. But yeah, that's
It's beautiful to be around a group of people, though, that don't have broken lineage.
Mhm.
There's no way to even let somebody understand what that means unless, one, you recognize that your lineage is broken, and two, that you can see what they bring by having they don't need ancestral healing. Their ancestors are right there. Do you know, like they're not separate from their ancestors and therefore the teachings of their ancestors. It's their way of life. Like it's funny because people are like, "Oh, you're learning a lot from the Maya." I'm like, I'm kind of learning how to live. Like anybody can teach you how to make a spell or do a ritual. Like that's just something. That's a series of steps. But it's the way they bring their lineage through that ritual that I am hard pressed to learn, and it's been a struggle to kind of feel my ancestors moving my medicine and our medicine into the world. Whereas for them, it's like, you know, they just do. So that's been an honor. Like that's been the biggest honor of being here is being witness to that and being accepted by them in that. Like there's a big um, these guys really cleared this up for me. Yes, as white people, we need to be really careful of appropriation. We are assholes about it, to be honest, and the way we take things from people. I want singing bowls, I have singing bowls. I don't care they came from Tibet. I don't care that, whatever, that I got mine on Amazon.
Yeah.
But the Maya, when somebody asked me to do something and I said, no, 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 I can't. That's not mine to do. And his response back to me was, we are here to share. We are one people. And I hadn't heard somebody say to me that we were one people ever in my life. And I was like, all I keep hearing is how separate we are and how different we are. And don't do that. Like that's,
Yeah.
so I was walking on such eggshells with these guys that I was really holding my own medicine in and not, and just like, yeah, I see your medicine, but I won't take it. I promise I won't take it. And the very first, after that coffee meeting, the very next time I met those people, they did that healing session on me. This ancient Maya practice of these circle bowls and water. And when they finished, they said, "This is yours to do now." And I was
Wow.
like, "Wow, really? Yeah, yeah, yeah." It's like,
Wow.
okay. Now I
I'm
still
s-
don't feel comfortable offering cacao ceremony down here, and
yeah.
I've been not hired for a job because I play my flute with my Maya friends in ceremonies. But they brought me to a hotel to do something, and the woman was like, "That is not what they want to see down here. They want to see Mexicans. They want to see Maya. They don't want to see a white girl with you guys." And I was never invited back.
Wow.
So, um, that was an interesting shift for me because I was like, "Wait, where do I belong?" You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um, but that has since led me to this bigger opening in me that as much as I'm here to learn from them, I'm here to bring me here, like back to
Yeah.
that heart piece, like that. I'm not meant to extract here. I'm meant to offer because I am a healer. So like I kept going, well, but you don't want my flute, you don't want my gifts because I'm not brown,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was just like this pivot. And who does need your help? And then somebody shows up, right? It's not,
Yeah.
I don't have to overthink that too much. But I did initially. I was like, who's
Yeah.
gonna want me here? I'll never be brown. You know?
Sunburnt maybe,
Yeah,
but
maybe
not brown.
sunburned.
I it just goes to show you that, we have so many preconceived ideas before we make the actual connection and exchange with people. Even just on a one-to-one basis. There's so many things that stop us or limit us before we actually speak to people about it. What a
Well, it
great,
seems like the Mexicans and the Maya and the indigenous here, when they were infiltrated by the Spaniards, they melded that culture of Catholicism into theirs. Like you'll see that a lot of just this mix of tradition. Whereas in the United States, the way we treated our native people was genocidal, like we
yeah,
just, I don't even know if that's a word, but
that's okay. I
it's
like it.
close enough. Yeah.
We know what
And
you
so
mean.
it makes sense that I would have that perception. That is what I am being told by the Native Americans of the United States.
Yeah,
You stole from us, you took our land. No, you don't get to understand our sweat lodge. No. And so to come down here and have them open their temescal and say, come in, please.
yeah,
That's what I really appreciate about the Maya heart is that it is so giving and sharing because of that main principle that we are one and
yeah.
everybody has access to Pachamama, and the Temescal, or the Sweat Lodge, is the place that you go and reach Pachamama.
What's
So,
Pachamama?
Mother Earth.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
inside of the Temescal, there's a hole that's dug out, and that's where the grandmother stones go in that creates the heat.
yeah.
But that divot is the belly button of Mother Earth.
Oh
So
my
we're literally
God.
going into the womb
Yeah.
and renewing yourself. And I just learned so much about they use those temescals for everything from for spiritual, high spiritual work to I have a tummy ache. My
Mm,
friend Jorge lost one of his kids in utero, like one of his children was like 8 months stillborn.
mm,
And it was like the second or third temescal. I'm in there with him, and he just starts to wail and cry and grieve and it wasn't scripted, it wasn't part of it. It was like, okay, now does anybody have anything they want to share?
mm.
It's just like
Yeah, yeah.
this moment of authentic, I'm hurting and I'm grieving deeply and I'm right here with mother. I'm going to scream in here. And
Mm,
again, just things we just don't have or honor in the United States. I don't miss that. I don't miss that. The reason why my friends are my friends is because I showed up one day broken down. And it would like in the United States, this would have been a horrific thing for me to if I'd have walked into, let's say, a new age bookstore for a meditation, but I showed up in the state I was in and I was messy, I was crying, I couldn't contain myself. And I wouldn't have done that in public. And I was actually shocked it was happening here, but I was literally at just one of those places where I didn't have any choice. I was breaking down. And my girlfriend just grabbed me. I didn't know her very well at the time, and she said she held me for the longest time, and then she said, "Let's smoke the peace pipe together." We sat down on the ground, and she started to smoke and pray into this pipe, and it was like the beginning of our friendship. Was
mm,
me showing my most vulnerable state, and her just with her open arms. And again, it's these are qualities I don't feel safe enough or don't see enough and don't feel the space to have in the United States.
yeah.
So I feel more at home here.
Ah, you're doing it again.
But
You're saying all the most beautiful things in the world.
I want to realize how to, I mean, as
Yeah.
a white person that left the country, I mean, the biggest struggle I struggle with is that these injustices that are happening, I feel that's that one thing I will say about if you leave your own country because you don't like the problems of that country, now you've just taken away all of your ability to do anything about it. And it is a really hard feeling for me sometimes to be down here witnessing the injustices and not even feeling like I could go march or write the letter or, do some action that would make me feel like I'm a part of this change that's going on. So I'm still playing with that. Like, how do I get to be just as potent and not hide? Because there's a lot of expat energy of people that are hiding from their politics, hiding
Yeah.
from their life, hiding from all of it. They just like left, they're gone.
Like
I don't
running
want to talk
away.
about politics. It's like, well, but no,
Yeah.
this is life. This isn't just politics. It's life that's happening.
Yeah.
Injustice is happening. And
Yeah,
that's the hardest part for me.
that's very understandable. I was reading like a Reddit post about being an expat, and one of the points that somebody made was make sure that you're moving to a country because you want to live in that country, not because you want to escape your own or not because you want to leave.
Yeah.
You're running away. And I think that's
People
really
don't tend
important.
to make it here if that's why they came.
Yeah.
I've seen
It's,
people get spit out from here.
yeah.
Because I'm an energy person, I'm seeing it in that realm, right? That
Yeah.
they don't belong here because they're not here for the right reason. They're not um
It makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, these things I'm gathering, these things I notice, I am immediately interested. How do I bring this to my white brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
How do I help the people of the United States? Because I'm the same as you. I didn't escape anything in that respect.
Yeah.
I'm still from a broken lineage. I'm still, I mean, not for myself, I've done a lot of work with grief, but I came as someone full of grief, full of my own unprocessed grief.
Yeah.
And the United States needs a giant long cry, you know, and really acknowledge how broken, how sad, how scary, how painful, how all of it is. But we won't do that. We just put on the next layer of lipstick, put on the next Botox, and you
Yeah.
know,
Pull up
off
pull
we
up our
go.
bootstraps.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like we are a country built by people who were stolen on land that we stole and slaughtered the people who were here. So that's in the land. And we are also made up of many people, many cultures, people from other parts of the world who were literally running away and trying to forget their past. Um, I when I lived in Paris for about a year, and I remember having a discussion with my roommate's girlfriend, and she had mentioned that she didn't understand how we as Americans didn't know where our ancestral home was. She's like, I literally know where the house is. It's in the south of France. There is a physical structure of their ancestral home where they all came from. And I was like, well, that's because everyone was trying to escape. I mean, everyone in my lineage, and that's why, as you said, the lineages are broken. But we also don't. We have not been in a culture that embraces processing the grief of leaving those cultures. It's just let's whitewash. Let's throw it into a melting pot so nothing is recognizable. You
And
know?
monetize it and call it St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. And then let's fight with other people who don't respect our St. Patrick's Day. Um, or, who are oppressing us because they will not say Merry Christmas. Like it's such a we live in such a hypocritical and we're a country in denial. I mean, that's kind of where it comes from. But
Yeah.
yeah, there wasn't really a
Yeah.
point.
Okay.
Well, okay. So I thank you so much for coming on the show. Please let everybody know what kind of services you offer. What are you offering right now? Kind of what are you working on?
I am working. So I'm here for the person that wants, I really like working with people in transition for whatever that is, retirement or a death or whatever, big transitions. I love working with ritual with people. That's kind of my thing, as you
Yeah,
know. Um, Still need to get you to the fire, I
I
think.
know. Well, I definitely want to come down there. It's so much on I know that I had a past life in Mexico. I've seen it. I know what it looks like. And I think it's important for me to go down there. So
That's an interesting story I can tell you really quick that one of
yeah,
that healing session that I had with the two bowls of water on my belly,
yeah.
what that revealed was the healing I needed at that time for my masculine and my feminine. The Maya people really resonate with masculine and feminine workings. Um, and my masculine took me to a past life where I was a conquistador, conquering this area. I had gotten caught and thrown down into the bottom of a cenote, which cenotes are sinkholes, usually filled with water, but sometimes they're dry caves. Um, so I
Oh,
was thrown down into the sinkhole, and it was only then that I was asking for mercy from the earth and from I could see the men above me that threw me down. And so I'm asking for mercy from Mother Earth, from them, and even so Mother Earth turned away from me, and so did the people, of course, right? They're the ones that threw me down
wow.
there. And that's how I died. So I had to, in that healing session, I made amends to the earth and for that action, for my conquering energies in my body. Um, and that's what was healed in that. Yeah, was
I'm
big.
feeling it. Oh my
Yeah,
God. Like I
was
can
a big. Yeah, the water healing is really interesting because it's tapping into the deepest part of, well, your fluids.
Yeah.
It's releasing things out of the fluids in your body. And this was the story that came up was this correction about asking for help at the last second, right? Asking for forgiveness at the last second. It's too late. That was like the biggest message. It was too late. You should have acted much earlier by like not coming here, basically.
Think
So
about
I
it
do I
next
do
time.
think that's what like that
Yeah.
nose thing when I got off the plane. I do think that there was that just that resonance in my cellular field from that past life. I had been
Yeah.
here before, that I knew this somehow. Yeah.
I'm literally having a hot flash. I don't know why.
But back to what I help people with right
Yeah,
now. So
yeah.
if you're here in person, what I love to do when somebody's here is kind of craft this beautiful place that I have, the access to the water, the cenote water, the ocean, the jungle, all of the elements here are so strong and so willing to help. And so I do a lot of work with ritual, and it might be flowing over a few days. Like we might have
Mm.
some just layout time and be fun, and then maybe you would also go into a ritual, or we'd be preparing for that ritual all week as we're also seeing something cool, right?
Yeah.
Um, when somebody isn't here, as you know, I work online,
Hmm.
and that can look like talking, like we've done a lot
Hmm.
of, just kind of
Yeah.
processing with somebody, helping them define and see where their next path is. I'm always divining with spirit when I'm working with a client. So I'm
Hmm.
getting information from your spirit guides, your ancestors to help us, like, what is the most appropriate ritual or action to help move you past this little part. I feel like a guide with most people. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm not here for you forever.
Yeah.
I want to be in relationship with you and watch you grow as a client. And that happens where I'll have somebody do some big work with me that I might not see him for a couple years. Great. Do your life,
Yeah. Yeah.
like live. But then maybe they get stuck and they're like, oh, I think I need some help with ritual, or could you help me divine something with this? And then we work and move through that next thing. So I'm all about autonomy
Yeah.
and, just the fact that we all need a little help sometimes moving each other through our crevices.
Yeah. I
And
love
that's what
that.
I love. I love, as you know, I love the
Yeah.
crevices. I love the patterns of people. I love
Yeah.
really starting to nail down with them what is happening and why, so that you have
Yeah.
more freedom in your brain and your heart and your body to make choices to move forward.
You're so like psychically clear and you're just such a powerful healer. I've experienced it many times. And that's the thing. It's like you don't need to keep going to someone when there's such a powerful it's sort of like a ceremony in and of itself, just the session that you have with someone. So, and you're also a Sekhmet sister, which is also wonderful for anyone interested in the lion.
Yeah, like
Um,
I do work, I don't really work with Maya like deities and helping spirits. They haven't really come to me.
yeah.
But yes, I do work with Egyptian and others, but mostly Egyptian uh, that come through and work with me. And I have some pretty cool ancestors from all kinds of places in Europe. So
Oh yeah.
I get a lot of flavor of everything from your classic witch of Ireland to
Yeah.
the gypsies of Ukraine, like just a lot
Wow.
of that deeper energy comes through me. So,
I didn't
yeah.
know that you had Ukrainian roots or
I
Russian,
think it's
maybe.
Ukraine. I
Yeah.
I feel it is Eastern Europe. I think it's in lands that don't exist anymore. Like they
Mm,
don't have the names we have now.
yeah. Yeah.
There's some lineage from Czechoslovakia um, to, but
So
yeah.
nice.
So
Oh.
yeah.
Larissa, thank you so much. What is your website that people can, and
Ancient
I'll include it,
Star Healing.
ancientstarhealing.com.
Yes. Larisa Gerace. Yeah, .com.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Thank you so much.
I'm
This
on.
is, oh, sorry. I always
No,
get it.
that's okay. I
Go
think we had
ahead.
a delay.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I was just gonna say I'm also on Instagram. I don't promote myself in my work on those socials too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you can find me there.
Yeah. but you forward some great reels, so I'm happy to be connected with you there.
Yeah, you got to have a sense of humor if you're going to work with me.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, yeah, just so powerful. I mean, I just highly recommend. But I will include all of your information down below. And thank you so much. This has been so, there's so much about this story that I just didn't know and I was so curious about. And
Oh, cool.
I really love that. I love that I know you, and I love that you took such a it was such a beautiful move, you know? I mean, I think you don't meet a lot of expats, I think, in general, so it's just really I think it's such a useful story for people to hear because it, you know, it ain't it. The USA ain't it anymore. But I mean, for some people, I'm sure it is. But it's
Well,
just
just
so
let we
nice to see
it's just
alternatives.
yeah, it's just good to let the lie go that we are the only it.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're the aspiring it, when there's a lot more to be aspiring to than the United States culture. No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, my love. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thanks so much.